We shouldn't have listened. That's what keeps echoing in my head, even now. Even with everything stripped down to silence and memory, that thought rings clearer than my own heartbeat. We shouldn't have decoded that signal. We shouldn't have answered. I remember the moment the relay pinged back to life. It was just another dry cycle on Lunar Research Station Kappa 3. The same sterile corridors, same recycled air, same protocols running circles around themselves. We were 6 scientists, each of us burned out or cast off from Earth-based programs. Misfits, maybe. Or maybe we were chosen because someone knew we'd go too far when told not to. I was sent up for xenogeological mapping, a polite way of saying dig around the moon and hope you find something we missed. The moon's been strip-searched by machines for decades, but humans? Humans still had fingers to feel vibrations in the stone, instincts that couldn't be programmed. I thought I'd find old meteorites or hidden lava tubes. I didn't expect this. It started with the deep penetration scans. Our seismic drones picked up an anomaly 2 kilometers beneath Mare Crisium, a vacuum signature surrounded by dense regolith. Perfectly ovular, 97 meters long, encased in lunar bedrock like a fossilized egg. No known impact crater, no displacement. It was just there. We marked it for review. Then the relay lit up. Juno, our system's AI, flagged the signal first. An outbound transmission, low frequency, analog, buried under noise and lunar static. But what caught my attention wasn't the signature. It was the timestamp. March 9th, 2317. Exactly 317 years ago. The message repeated every 6 hours, degraded but legible. To any listening station, the ship is buried. We couldn't destroy it. Do not, under any circumstances, excavate. It sleeps beneath the mare. We tried. We failed. It's listening. That was it. Looping. Over and over. Of course, we didn't stop. No scientist ever does. The moment something tells us don't dig, we grab a bigger shovel. Dr. Elena Roshkova, our station's lead physicist, ran the signal through spectral analysis and confirmed it. It was real. No forgeries, no anomalies in the waveform. Just a message that shouldn't have existed. Sent centuries before the lunar relay was even operational. We argued about it. Elena wanted to send it to Earth Command immediately. Commander Briggs, the military liaison, said to classify and seal it. But me? I volunteered. I wanted to be the first to dig. Briggs hated me for that. Still does. The excavation started 3 days later. We brought in the Helios 9 drill programmed for surgical penetration. I oversaw every pass. Each layer removed felt wrong. The stone was too smooth, too brittle, as if it wanted to be moved, like the ground had exhaled centuries ago, waiting to be disturbed. Then came the resonance. Our readings started to vibrate at irregular intervals, ultrasonic tones, just above the threshold of hearing. We couldn't pick it up directly, but the equipment recorded it. Pulses spaced exactly 19 seconds apart, like a heartbeat. I remember walking past the drill head on the 5th day, just before we breached the chamber. The vibration made my teeth ache like biting tinfoil. I thought it was stress. I should have known better. We reached the shell just before dawn on the 6th day. It was metallic, deep black, smooth to the touch, with a fine dust that glittered like crushed bone. It wasn't lunar regolith. The composition didn't match anything known. It pulsed slightly under our lights. Not visibly, but the shadows around it seemed to bend inward. Elena called it a ship. I wasn't ready to say that. Not yet. The decision to enter wasn't unanimous. Elena refused to go any further without a full exoanalysis. Briggs threatened to shut the dig down, but I convinced him otherwise. Said we needed to confirm it was safe for Earth Command. Said we be careful. In truth, I just wanted inside. Every instinct screamed against it, but curiosity is louder than fear. We assembled a team. Myself, Carr, systems engineer, Dr. Renzo, biochem, and Briggs. Elena stayed topside with the AI link. The tunnel descended in a spiral, a gentle slope cut into the rock, barely wide enough for one person. The deeper we went, the more the walls began to sweat. Not water, something else. A thin sheen of oily residue, iridescent under torchlight. Car gagged the moment we hit the lower chamber. Said it smelled like rust and old blood. I couldn't smell it. Not then. At the base of the tunnel was a doorway. Not a hatch. An actual door, 7 feet tall, shaped like a flattened hexagon. No seams. No handles. Just a single groove in the center, shallow like a fingerprint. It was warm, not figuratively. I put my hand to it, and it was warm. The only warmth I'd felt in weeks. Then Carr touched it. There was a sound, like a breath inhaled sharply through 1,000 throats. The door slid open, not in a way, into itself, vanishing like smoke. Beyond it was blackness so thick it didn't reflect our headlamps. I stepped in first. The air shifted instantly. Not pressure, density. The feeling of walking through syrup. Every breath felt a little heavier. The others followed. Carr muttered under his breath the entire time. I remember Briggs whispering, "This is a tomb. We're walking into a tomb." We emerged into what I can only describe as a corridor. Organic in architecture, as if carved by something living. The walls pulsed faintly. Our lights seemed to fade a few feet out, swallowed by the dark. Everything smelled wrong. I couldn't place it at first. It was faint, like hot copper, mold, and singed hair. Carr said it tasted like static on the tongue. Renzo took a sample from the wall. It bled. Not red, something darker, like oil with gold flecks suspended in it. It evaporated before he could store it. The further we walked, the more impossible it became to measure our distance. Our equipment stopped syncing. Compasses spun, watches ticked backward. Juno reported signal drift from our suits, as if we were moving faster than she could calculate. Then the whispering began, soft at first like background noise. We assumed it was the comms echoing, but we turned them off. The whispers remained. Carr claimed he heard his name being called. We laughed. Nervous laughter, the kind you use to hold the tension back with both hands. Then we found the hatch. Not a door this time. A chamber, sealed by a translucent membrane like stretched skin. Beneath it, we saw movement. Shapes. Humanoid, but curled unnaturally. Briggs wanted to abort. Said it was enough. Said we report and seal the site. No one argued. Not then. We turned to leave. That's when the black mist started to leak from the walls. It came slowly, like smoke underwater. Thin, creeping tendrils slipping along the corridor floor. It smelled sharp, acidic like spoiled meat and ozone. It didn't rise, didn't swirl. It just moved, consciously, hungrily. We ran. As we ascended the spiral tunnel, I looked back. I saw a figure standing in a mist. Not one of us. Too tall, too thin, no face, just a smooth stretch of glistening skin where a face should be. But it looked directly at me. I felt it. I didn't tell the others. Not then. We emerged into the lunar surface an hour later. According to Elena, we were gone for 6 hours. According to our suit logs, we were only gone 12 minutes. The mist didn't follow us. The door remained open, waiting. Briggs ordered a full lockdown. No further entry. The signal was to be jammed, the dig site buried. But at night, the whispering started again. Not in the ship, in our dreams. Carr screamed in his sleep. Said he saw himself walking into the ship and never leaving. Renzo stopped eating. Elena found him standing naked in the oxygen chamber, pressing his face to the glass. He didn't remember doing it. And me? I kept dreaming of the figure. It speaks to me now, not in words, in knowing. It shows me visions, futures, possible pasts, Earth burning under twin moons, a second sun opening like an eye in the sky. I think it remembers me. I think I've been here before. I keep checking the logs. The mission files say I arrived at Kappa 3 on February 2nd, 2634. But I remember landing in December. I remember 2 full months of surveys before we dug. No one else remembers it that way. This is my final entry before the next descent. Briggs is gone. Carr disappeared in the night. Only Elena and I remain. She says we should destroy the ship. But I know the truth now. It was never meant to be found. Because it never left. Because it's still alive. Because it's part of me. And I can't stop listening. The doorway remained open, humming with a frequency too low to hear, but too deep to ignore. The mist had withdrawn after that first encounter, receding like a tide back into the abyss. but we all knew it was still there. Watching, listening. Elena and I suited up in silence. Car was gone. His suit remained untouched in the storage bay, helmet placed neatly atop it like a severed head. The log said he'd walked into the excavation tunnel sometime around 0400. No one saw him leave. No footprints in the dust. No alerts triggered. It was like he'd been erased. Briggs hadn't made it that far. Whatever had been brewing inside him since the first descent finally cracked open. He tried to seal the tunnel with a controlled detonation, without telling anyone. I found him standing at the tunnel's edge, the detonator in one hand, his sidearm in the other, muttering fragments of his daughter's name. Elena. Elena's eyes were empty too, just like that thing. I took the detonator away. Elena sedated him. He never woke up. That left the two of us. The command center was quiet, save for Juno's occasional status updates. The AI's voice had begun to develop a delay. Half-second pauses between words. Sometimes it would mispronounce our names or refer to us as units. We filed a diagnostic. It came back clean. We gathered what we needed. Flares, sealed sample containers, oxygen reserves, a pulse scanner. I brought a seismic recorder. Elena brought her father's crucifix, worn down smooth from decades of clutching. She didn't believe, but she wore it anyway. No words passed between us as we descended again. This time, we were prepared, or at least we told ourselves we were. The spiral tunnel felt different. Not longer, just altered, subtly wrong. A turn came sooner than expected. A rock wall had vanished. The sensation was like returning to your childhood home and finding every door a few inches off-center. The ship greeted us in silence. Its walls no longer bled, but they pulsed gently, like lungs drawing breath in slow sleep. The black surface, once inert, now glistened with moisture. Shapes moved beneath it, shadows that didn't belong to anything visible. We passed the corridor where the mist had first emerged. It was dry now. The air inside felt electric, thick with potential, like a thunderstorm coiled inside a balloon. Our headlamps flickered once, then held steady. The internal structure of the ship defied logic. Elena laid down marker beacons at each junction, color-coded and encoded with direction. We placed one every 10 meters. After the fifth, we turned to check our path. All the beacons were gone. No trace. No blinking lights. Nothing. Elena reached for her comms, but I stopped her. Something about the silence felt sacred, like speaking would rupture whatever fragile piece we still had. Then the walls opened, not mechanically, more like muscle parting around a wound. A seam split in the corridor ahead, revealing a chamber that hadn't been there before. Inside was a circular room, impossibly tall, its ceiling swallowed by darkness. The walls were smooth and concave, like the interior of a bell. At its center floated a sphere. It hovered 6 feet above the ground, unmoving, untouched by gravity. Black, like obsidian, but with veins of silver spiraling across its surface like living circuitry. I stepped forward, pulse racing. "Wait," Elena whispered, but I was already within arm's reach. The air vibrated as I raised my hand. Not sound, intention. Like the ship was waiting for me to finish a sentence only I could hear. My fingertips brushed the sphere. It was cold. Not the cold of absence, but the cold of something ancient, preserved too long. The silver veins surged for a split second, reacting. A jolt shot through my nerves, as if I'd licked an electric fence. I staggered back. My vision blurred. The room dimmed, then flashed. For a moment, less than a second, I saw a different reality. The chamber was full of bodies. Human bodies. Dozens of them, floating in perfect stillness. Their skin had peeled away, revealing raw muscle beneath. Their eyes were wide open. All of them were staring at me. Then the room returned to normal. Elena gripped my shoulder, pulling me away. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. I saw it too. We backed out together, slow and deliberate. The corridor behind us had changed. Where we had come from was no longer a tunnel. It was a staircase, wide and endless, descending into blackness. The walls were no longer smooth, but jagged, as if carved in haste. Faint carvings lined them now, alien symbols etched with mathematical precision. I reached for my scanner. It flatlined. No data, no signal, no echo. Elena's voice broke the silence. We're not in the ship anymore. I wanted to deny it, to insist we were simply deeper, disoriented. But the walls, they smelled wrong now. Not metal or decay, but something like warm milk left too long in the sun. Sweet but cloying. We pressed on, driven by something neither of us dared name. The next chamber was smaller, but colder. The temperature dropped sharply. Our suits compensated, but frost rimmed the helmet glass. In the center stood a figure. At first, we thought it was a statue. 7 feet tall, humanoid, draped in what appeared to be a cloak of translucent fibers. It didn't move. No breathing, no shifting, but it radiated presence, like standing before a predator who hasn't decided whether to pounce. Elena stepped closer. It's not stone. She reached out with a probe, touching its arm. The figure shivered. Not movement, a ripple across its entire body, like a muscle twitch. Then the eyes opened. There were no pupils. Just black irises layered over deeper black, endlessly reflecting. And then it blinked at me. I don't remember drawing my weapon. I don't remember Elena pulling me back. But I do remember what it said, not aloud, but in my mind. You are the echo. The first. The last. Come home. I blacked out. When I woke, I was alone. Elena's helmet was on the floor, visor shattered. Her recorder lay beside it, blinking red. I played the file. I don't think I'm awake, her voice whispered. I keep seeing myself walking into the chamber again, over and over. Each time I follow me, I end up deeper. There's no end, no surface. I think the ship is a loop, or I am. The recording cut off. I checked my location. My suit registered nothing. No coordinates. No oxygen data. It didn't even recognize the surface material beneath my boots. As far as the system was concerned, I was nowhere. I turned back toward the previous chamber and found a corridor instead. My breath caught. On the far end of the passage was a window. Not a viewport, a window. Square, wooden framed, coated with frost. Through it I saw Earth. But it was wrong. The oceans were gone. The continents were scorched, cracked open like eggshells. 2 moons orbited it now. One familiar, the other black and jagged. A shadow passed across the surface. A shape too large to be a ship. It moved with purpose. I stumbled back. The corridor behind me had sealed. Every direction was closed except forward. I ran. Rooms blurred by, each more distorted than the last. One was filled with children's drawings, pinned to walls that wept blood. Another was a hospital room, flickering between pristine and rotting decay. My own face stared back from monitors in each. The last door I passed was labeled with my name. I didn't stop. Eventually, I collapsed in a chamber I didn't recognize. It was familiar, but different, like a half-remembered dream. The walls pulsed like before, but slower now. Weaker. In the center of the room sat a chair. And in the chair me, or something that looked like me. It was gaunt, skin stretched tight over bones, eyes hollow and milky. It turned to face me, slowly, deliberately. It spoke with my voice. You're early. I didn't make it this far last time. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. It's always this room, it continued. Always this moment. We touch the sphere, we fall inside ourselves, and we never leave. I backed away. My double didn't follow. It's not a ship, it said. It's a seed. It plants us, grows us, learns through us. Every version of us is a sprouting. Every return a cycle. You won't remember next time, but it will. Then it smiled. I ran. The ship let me go. When I emerged onto the lunar surface again, the base was silent. Elena was gone. Juno was offline. The stars looked unfamiliar. But I was breathing. I don't know how much time passed. Hours. Days. I still hear the whispers. And I know I'll go back. Not because I want to. Not because I need answers. Because it's waiting. Because it knows my name. Because I think I've always belonged to it. And because next time, I won't come back alone. It's difficult to say when I went back. Time isn't reliable anymore. Not since the second descent. I used to count hours by the station's light cycles, by the taste of rehydrated coffee, by the slow crawl of sun shadows on the regolith. But now, it's just memory scraps. Flashes. One moment I was standing on the lunar surface beneath a black sky. The next, I was inside the ship again, its breathing walls folding around me like a lung closing. I didn't make a conscious decision to return. I just arrived. Maybe I never left. There's a theory in theoretical physics, something Elena used to talk about when we'd share tea in the command dome, back when things were still mundane. A place can remember you, she'd said. If reality bends enough around your presence, you leave a kind of scar, like dragging a magnet through iron filings. Maybe that's what the ship is. A scar in reality. A place that remembers too much. The interior was no longer shifting. It had stabilized somehow. The corridors were still alien, still black and ribbed like the inside of a leviathan spine, but they no longer changed when I turned my back. They welcome me now. Familiar. Intentional. The air inside was warmer. Not in temperature, but in feeling. Like it was alive. Like the ship was glad to have me back. I walked deeper without hesitation. I came to the same room where I had seen the sphere before. It hovered still, pulsating gently with that silver-veined glow. But this time, I didn't touch it. Instead, I circled it slowly, watching the way its light refracted off the walls. It cast no shadow, only ripples, like light bending through thick water. Then I heard the laughter. Not loud, not human, just faint, high-pitched, childlike, echoing in layers. It stopped the moment I acknowledged it. I turned. The hallway behind me was no longer empty. A figure stood at the threshold. Elena. But it wasn't her. I knew instantly. She stood too still. Her breathing didn't fog the air. Her face, it looked like Elena's face, but waxy, incomplete. Her eyes were wrong, colorless and smooth, like polished stone. Elena, I whispered. She smiled, or tried to. Her mouth moved, but the expression didn't reach the rest of her face. You're learning, she said, voice oddly layered, like two recordings slightly out of sync. Faster than the others. What are you? I asked. She tilted her head, as if considering the question. A memory. A failed impression. One of many. I stepped back toward the sphere. It pulsed faster. She didn't follow. You've seen the core, she said. But you haven't heard its story. Then she raised her hand. The room folded inward. Not literally. Not in any physical sense. It was like watching a dream collapse into itself, the walls dissolving into fog, and then I was somewhere else. A new chamber, or perhaps the same one, deeper. Floating around me were bodies. Hundreds, maybe more, suspended in translucent cocoons, spinning slowly like leaves on still water. Some were human, others not quite. All were silent. All were watching. I couldn't breathe. Not because there was no air, but because I was suddenly aware I was being observed not by eyes, but by intention. A consciousness too vast to localize, too old to categorize. It wasn't a thing in the ship. It was the ship. Elena. No. The thing wearing her face stood beside me, her form flickering at the edges. This vessel was not built, she said. It was grown, not by you, but for you. For me. I echoed, dazed. For your kind, she corrected. The seed was sown before your species climbed from the mire. It reached across time, waiting for the key. She stepped closer. Her features rippled, distorting briefly into something insectoid before smoothing out again. You are the key, she said. I wanted to argue, to deny it. But the sphere pulsed again, and behind my eyes, images flooded. Earth, burning beneath red skies. The moon, cracked open, bleeding light. A tower reaching from the oceans, so tall it pierced the clouds. Myself, standing atop it, not aging, not blinking, with thousands kneeling in ash below. Then a new image, a recording. I saw a group of astronauts, 7, suited and geared decades older than ours. Their insignia bore the old Earth Federation seal, phased out over 2 centuries ago. One of them removed his helmet. It was me, a younger version. Hair fuller, eyes clearer, but the same scar above the right eyebrow. The same crooked nose from a childhood fall. He looked directly at me through the screen. Cycle 14, he said. This is the furthest we've come. If you're seeing this, you're already part of it. You always were. Stop fighting it. The recording glitched. Behind him, the ship pulsed. Another figure appeared, Elena again. This time, burning. Her eyes were alight. her skin flaking away into embers. She reached for the camera. "You must forget," she screamed. "You must forget who you are." Then everything shattered. I collapsed onto the floor of the ship's chamber, gasping. The sphere was gone. The cocoon body's gone. Elena's mimic gone. Only me, and a corridor stretching endlessly ahead. I sat there, silent, for what felt like hours, trying to piece it together. I had been here before. Not just recently, but before. Before Kappa 3. Before the lunar assignment. I remembered a different launch, a different crew, long dead. Names surfaced: Talon, Reyes, Shin. Ghosts. All part of previous expeditions scrubbed from history. And the ship, it had shown me what it wanted. Not just compliance. Acceptance. It wanted to be remembered. Not as a discovery, as a destination. I got on my feet. The corridor ahead was lit with a soft, golden glow. First light I'd seen in days that didn't feel hostile. I walked toward it. At the end was a door. Normal. Human. Steel-plated, with a circular handle and keypad. It belonged to the Kappa 3 base. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was the operations deck, pristine, fully lit, humming with energy. Juno was online, her voice crisp and confident. "Commander Hale," she said. "Welcome back." Hale. That wasn't my name. My name was... I paused. What was my name? I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came. The lights dimmed briefly. A faint pulse echoed through the station's walls. The same pulse the ship made. Then Juno spoke again, voice now layered with static. Project Moira proceeding as scheduled. Consciousness reintegration at 73%. Subject orientation stabilizing. What the hell is going on? I whispered. From the corner of the room, a monitor came to life. Footage played. Me, standing in the excavation tunnel. Date, February 1st, 2634. Then me again, same tunnel, February 2nd. Again, February 3rd. Dozens of copies. Same man, different days. Each time descending, never returning. Each time, the log said, Subject 43. Cycle reset. I staggered back. My mind throbbed. I wasn't the first. I wasn't even the original. I was one of many. A clone? A projection? I didn't know. But something had been testing me. Over and over. Through the ship. Through time. Through memory. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. Splitting. Lines of silver threaded across my veins, just like the sphere. I tore at my suit, clawed at my chest. Beneath the skin, the silver pulsed. It was inside me. It was me. Then everything blinked out. I woke in a dark chamber. No equipment. No suit. Just me and a voice. Not from outside. From within. It spoke gently, patiently, like a parent to a child. You understand now. You are the seed. We are your root. Let us grow. I wanted to scream, but I had no mouth. Only light and the memory of being human. For now, the last thing I saw before it faded was my reflection in the black mirror of the chamber's wall. I smiled, but I didn't feel it. The smile belonged to something else, and it was still learning how to wear me properly. There was no waking up from this. No cold sweat. No rush of breath. No moment of clarity. Only continuity, a slow bleed from one reality into the next, like ink spreading through water. I opened my eyes, but I wasn't sure if they were mine. The chamber was dim, filled with a pulsing amber glow that seemed to originate from nowhere and everywhere at once. I was standing, fully suited, fully armed, and completely alone. Again, only this time I knew better. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a loop, a recursive mechanism designed not to carry, but to observe, to interpret, to record and rewrite. And I was its latest draft. My thoughts were clearer than before, but they felt curated, as if someone had taken the sharp edges of memory and sanded them smooth. I remembered Kappa 3. I remembered Elena, Carr, Briggs, but they felt more like placeholders than people, as if the ship had dressed them in familiarity, so I'd comply. Now that I knew, I could see the strings, and they were tightening. I moved through the corridor, boots echoing on the soft, sponge-like floor. The walls weren't walls anymore. They were organic like cartilage. They flexed slightly with each step, like the interior of some colossal, dormant creature. Something had changed. It no longer pretended to be a ship. It was becoming honest. As I walked, I noticed more of them, others, shapes suspended in the walls, partially fused with the ship's body. Faces caught in expressions of horror, awe, or total serenity. Dozens, hundreds, some human, some not, all of them looking at me, not with eyes, with awareness, like their presence had been reduced to a psychic residue. Trapped echoes of beings who had been here before. Cycles that failed. Patterns that ended. Seeds that didn't sprout. I kept moving. Time had lost all definition. My watch displayed nonsense, symbols I didn't recognize, pulsing in sync with my heartbeat. Or maybe with its heartbeat. It didn't matter. I wasn't on a schedule anymore. I was on a trajectory. The next chamber I entered was impossibly vast. A cathedral of silence. Dark spires arched into unseen heights, woven with veined structures that glowed faintly. Arteries for an ancient, still living god. In the center was the core. Not the sphere. That was just an interface. This was its heart. A black obelisk, floating just above a platform of bone-white stone. Around it, holographic fragments flickered data, images, language. Human alphabets mixed with alien script. Rotating schematics of Earth, the moon, other planets I didn't recognize. Moments plucked from history and from futures that hadn't happened. And at its base, a man, naked, kneeling, face slack with exhaustion. He looked up. It was me, but older, weathered, eyes hollow and red-rimmed from crying too long. Another, he said, voice hoarse. Already, I stepped closer. My hands trembled. How long have you been here? He laughed. It sounded dry, brittle. Long enough to forget the number, but not long enough to stop hoping. Are you the original? He smiled without humor. No such thing. Just an earlier draft. One that lasted longer. One who refused too many times. He pointed toward the obelisk. It wants you to connect. It's ready. I turned my gaze to the obelisk. Even without touching it, I could feel its pull. Not physical, psychological. It was a center of gravity for consciousness. Everything the ship had shown me, every hallucination, every loop, every version of myself, it all led here. What happens if I do? I asked. He shrugged. You won't be you anymore, but you'll finally know why. That should have terrified me, but it didn't, because I already knew. The ship wasn't showing me these cycles to punish me. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't even curious. It was preparing me for something larger. Something beyond human comprehension, beyond individual identity. It was growing us into something else. I stepped onto the platform. The older version of me sighed and closed his eyes. Good luck, he whispered. Then he dissolved, not metaphorically. His body broke apart into particles of golden light, drifting upward like ash in reverse. I reached for the obelisk and touched it. The rush was immediate. Not pain, not pleasure. Just everything, all at once. I saw the ship being seeded into lunar rock billions of years before Earth had formed atmosphere. I saw its creators, immense beings of fractal geometry, speaking in waves of ultraviolet thought, building this vessel as a containment tool. A prison, a test. It was never meant for us, but it adapted. It waited dormant, under regolith and silence, until human curiosity stirred it. I saw every expedition, every failed mind, every fractured soul, and then I saw Earth, not as it is, not as it was, as it will be, under 2 moons, under a red sky, with towers of bone and glass rising from shattered continents, and voices that speak in dream logic ruling over cities of the lost. And in the center, at the heart of it all, me, or what used to be me, a being composed of memory, thought, and silver-veined light. The echo, the seed finally grown. And the worst part? I wasn't afraid. I understood. In that moment of total clarity, I saw the truth the ship had been trying to instill with every loop, every hallucination, every failed version of myself. Humanity was never alone. Not just in the universe, but within itself. Something else had always been intertwined with us, whispering in our dreams, guiding our myths, nudging our evolution from shadows. Not malevolent, not benevolent, just inevitable. And now I was part of it. I was its voice, The obelisk pulsed one last time. When I came back to myself, I was standing on the moon's surface. But it wasn't the moon I remembered. The sky was dark but wrong. The stars had shifted. A second, smaller moon hung low, fractured and glowing red at the core. Earth was gone. In its place, a planet I didn't recognize, too large, wrapped in lightning storms and surrounded by black satellites that moved too precisely to be natural. I turned slowly. Behind me stood the ship, fully risen now, no longer buried, towering, beautiful, horrific. It opened as I watched, petals of black metal folding outward, light spilling from within, thick, golden, and alive. Shapes moved inside, tall, limbless, watching me with thousands of eyes. And from the horizon came others, figures in suits, dozens of them, all walking toward the ship. All me, versions of me, clones, ghosts, iterations from different cycles, timelines, failures. And they were smiling. As one, we turned to face the ship. We entered together, no longer afraid, no longer alone. We had returned. We were ready. Transmission recovered from lunar relay, Theta 9, time-stamped, unknown. Log entry // subject 43 / final. I remember now, not everything, but enough. Enough to know this was never meant to be found. And maybe that was the point. Not to warn us, but to call us. The ship isn't dead. It never was. It was dreaming, waiting for someone to fit the pattern to make it complete. That someone was me. And now that it's awake, it will begin. We are already too late. End transmission. Signal source lost. Reconnection failed. Archive status sealed. Project Moira complete. And somewhere, beneath a sky no longer our own, the ship sings. It sings of us, of Earth, of all the things we were, and all the things we will become.